Sway the Morning Shade 4-5. I just, I had to take a pause for this beat real quick. I start really thinking about who I got on the line right now, Heather B. And I just start smiling
That's a fact.
Because I was so moved by the docuseries that gave a definitive account of their father's career. And their father, hands down, the greatest man to ever play in the NBA. Is somebody that's been a true inspiration to me since my youth. And
when you was dunking on people, or
when I was dunking on people, I used to call out his name, Michael, before I would ever even dunk. But I tell you this, it wasn't just that. It was, we grew up in a disenfranchised environment, so we had people who became our heroes and folks who did things that was against the grain and that was out of the box. And when you saw people on these huge global platforms, when those people became relatable to you, it made you believe that you could accomplish anything they believed. And Michael Jordan, to me, was more than just a basketball player. He was a trailblazer. And what he did and the way he helped combine sports culture with street culture and what we did in hip-hop was unprecedented at the time. But when you watch this documentary, The Last Dance, one of the things I always admired about him, at some point in his career, he became a little more distant. So you had a little bit of mysterious factor about him. But years later, this Last Dance peels back the curtain and help you to understand that you can still be great, be a role model, and not be perfect. And be okay with that, too, because none of us are. And so watching that series, and even last night, we talked about this morning, how Michael talked about his competitive nature. That was one more thing I could relate to. And we talked about meeting who did we meet? We met his sons. I feel like Marcus and Jeffrey, met before.
Yeah, in New Orleans. That's what it was. We were in New Orleans, and I'll admit, I was hammered. I was about 30 drinks in at that point, but I had me a good time. And I just remember, I think Jeffrey, we met first, may have came up to us, and we just started kicking it about the show, and then we met Marcus. It was a beautiful time in New Orleans.
Yeah, and so and then Jasmine is incredible in her own right, too. And
Absolutely.
I've been saying, how can we get these folks on the show? And so we got them. The Jordan family is here. We got Jeffrey, we got Marcus, and Jasmine is on the line. Give them a big round of applause. Welcome to Sway in the Morning. Hey.
Well, thanks for having us. Y'all doing? Appreciate it.
Yo, got all three of y'all, right? Hey, so Jeffrey, you remember meeting us?
I do. I remember New Orleans. That was just a great time. I remember Heather B. I was right there with you. I was just as lit, probably. So, but it was a good time. I think I was supposed to hop on the show, and that call time was a little too early for young me back then. but I definitely remember. And it's good to be with y'all again.
No doubt.
Absolutely. I'll tell this story. I know you guys hear stories all the time. But was it in New Orleans when the dad came up to us, Heather, at the table? Okay, so we were at some banquet. I don't know what it was in New Orleans, and this is one of my most milestone moments in my career. This is next to sitting down with Obama in the White House. Y'all dad. And I don't care if I sound like a groupie, Jasmine. I know you probably don't like that, but I'm going to do it anyway, okay? Because, daughters. Okay, thank you. Daughters with their dads. I got a daughter. I know it. Your dad, you know how it is. Not everybody's going to walk up to Michael Jordan. Not everybody is able to. But he got up from across the room, and we were on the other side of the room, and he started walking our way. And it was me, Heather, and my other coworker, Kelly Kincaid. And Heather starts saying, I said, look, hey, there go Mike, man. The dude's walking over this way. You think we'll be able to see him? And Heather starts saying, hey, Sway, I think he's walking to us. I was like, there's no way this man is walking over here to this table. Y'all dad walked over to our table and tapped me on the shoulder and asked me if he can sit down next to me.
That's love.
I was like, can you sit there? I said, Mike, this is your party. Of course you can, And he sat down and he got in my ear and start telling me, get not only just start pointing out things that I've done as a journalist. In one interview in particular that he really liked, and he started breaking down everything that happened in that interview. And I'm flabbergasted that he even knew my name, first and foremost. But I'm astonished that he knew my work. And he told me, you're great at what you do. And that's not something that you have to tell yourself. That's something that people tell you. I don't say it. Folks tell me that. If they think I'm the greatest, and that's up to them to make that conclusion. But you're great at what you do, and I watch it all the time. I could have retired right then and there.
I wouldn't have blamed you.
Yeah. That's how he is, though, man. He pays attention to what's going on. Obviously he's a real private guy. He doesn't speak on everything that that he would like to. But if he appreciates something, he'll definitely go out of his way to make sure that it's known. So that's a great story.
What I also like as a father is that you guys are all in the business too. So real quick, if you don't mind, Jeffrey, and then Marcus and then Jasmine, or any order, can you tell everybody what it is that you're doing right now?
Yep. So I'm out in Oregon. I've been working at Nike headquarters for the past 6 years, doing a little bit of everything, but I do digital marketing and innovation for Jordan Brand, Nike. So any new platforms, esports, all that technological jazz, I basically help them implement it at Nike.
Okay, Jasmine, what about you?
Yeah, I also work for Jordan Brand on Nike. I'm based in North Carolina. I work in sports marketing as a field rep, so I represent a bundle of athletes all the way from Rui Hachimura with the Wizards to our Charlotte Hornets athletes. And, I love what I do, and I'm also a contributor to our Jordan women's team and our project. So it's been super dope to be at Jordan Brand for about 3 years now.
How hard was it? Did people take you seriously? Because, it's such a male-dominated field. And being a woman, even though you're in the lineage of the golden one, but was it hard for people to take you seriously at first, or they just knew you was about your business?
It's a little bit of both. I think those that didn't know me were, a little skeptical and definitely trying to figure out, okay, did she just get here off of merit and name, or is her work ethic going to speak for itself? And, those are things I'm always going to be up against. My brothers are too in their own right, but at the end of the day, when people see me and work with me, they understand that I grind and I work hard for everything that I'm given and work with. So it's definitely hard in the beginning, but once people actually see how I get down, they know my work speaks for itself.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. And who we got left?
Yeah, so basically, Jeff and Jazz, they work directly for Jordan or the brand. And so for me, I work independent of it. I open my own boutique called Trophy Room here in Orlando. And basically, Trophy Room is inspired by the trophy room that was in our house growing up. It was a centrally located place within our home. And so anytime people came over, it was somewhere that, people wanted to hang out. And, my dad would put our trophies in there with his. So it just kind of inspired us as kids to want to earn our own accolades and do our own thing. We put our Christmas tree in the Trophy Room. And so it really was just like a special place for me growing up. And with the boutique, obviously we lead through the Jordan Brand and Nike in terms of sneakers and apparel. But, now we're starting to merge into more streetwear and carrying Off-White and Palm Angels and Bape and stuff like that. And so, right now we're on pause. We opened in Disney Springs, actually, in Walt Disney World back in 2016. And right now we're in the middle of a transition from Disney to downtown Orlando. And so obviously with everything that's going on with the virus, things are on pause right now. But we're excited that, once we get out of this, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And, even just like the past 5 weeks, Jordan Brand launches, I think there's been like 3 or 4 sellouts. And so it's just a testament really to what my dad has built and the legacy that he's built. And, that's why one of the things that I think makes him the greatest is that foundation is so strong, it really can't be rivaled.
Absolutely. Watching the doc, and I'm going to let Heather and Tracy jump in too. I don't want to seem like I'm hogging it. But watching the doc, it's a few things that I was pleasantly enlightened about. The fact that it showed the story of your father as a child and his siblings and your grandparents and the role that they played in his development as a person that he is today. What was your relationship like with your grandparents, and did they treat you guys the same way as they treated your the uncles and aunties, or what was that regiment like?
Yeah, I could speak to definitely my grandmother. I think I was too young to remember a lot of those interactions with my grandfather before he passed. But, a lot of that was recorded, so I got a chance to really understand a little bit of who he was as well. But, yeah, I think, even growing up in Chicago, our grandma would come out from North Carolina or wherever she was traveling from, and I remember her always putting, books in our hands, making sure that we were, we were studying and going to be educated because, that was always more important for her, even with my dad than the game. So even in the height of our, amateur career in high school, basketball, all that stuff, she was always, putting that priority on education, on books, on building tools outside of the game so that you can succeed after.
We got.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marcus.
No, okay, yeah. No, I was just going to piggyback on what Jeff was saying. She was real, education first. And, my middle name is actually James, named after my late grandfather. And so, throughout growing up, I was, always trying to research and look back on, like, pictures and memories because, I was real young, too. I was born in 90. And so, my grandma, even to this day, she's probably the strongest one in our family. And we just recently had a family trip down to the Bahamas not too long ago. And I just remember, having, deep conversations with her. And we definitely had some debates as a collective. But she's definitely keeping us on the straight and narrow, that's for sure.
Oh, man, it's just amazing to see that footage because I think we all could kind of identify with the roles that grandparents play in our lives, and in our development and even in our parents' lives. And one of the things I like learning about your dad that I feel like he might even felt it would be controversial to see how he treated his teammates, and how he was hard on folks. If you ain't working as hard as I am, get the hell out the gym type hard. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I like that kind of shit though. I want somebody to challenge me and push me. Some people thought it was mean, but whatever you thought, it was effective because it got them what they fought for. But that demand of 100% effort and that passion that he had as a leader, did that bleed over into his approach as a father? Jasmine, I want to ask you that.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, my father and our mother made sure that we didn't come home unless we were doing our absolute best in school or whatever our extracurriculars were. We couldn't get into sports or projects unless we made sure they understood that we were committed. Because at the end of the day, our mom and our dad didn't want us wasting time, wasting their time, wasting their money. Like, at the end, we had to make sure that whatever we were doing, we were committed and it spoke to us and why we wanted to do it. I mean, I remember when I was like 15, 16, and that was right when I was getting my permit, and I wanted a car and things like that. And I asked my dad to buy it, and he was like, "That's great, but why do you need it?" And so I had to make a PowerPoint presentation as to why I wanted a car at 15, 16 years old. And I'm like, what do you mean? So no matter what it was, our parents made sure that if we're going to commit to it or we want something or we have these desires, that we worked for it and we explained why and we committed to it and knowing that, look, it's not going to be handed to you. It's not going to be easy. So it'll be worth it in the journey that we go on as long as we know that it's something we really want, we really love, and we work towards and commit to it. So that definitely carried on within our lives and our childhood and even to today.
Heather Tracy, go jump in, man, before I can keep going.
No, it's funny. What's up, y'all? It's Heather. Good. Thank y'all for coming on the show. It's interesting because we kicked off the show this morning talking about family dynamic, and both Sway and I grew up in a household of three. For me, two brothers as well, and then I was the only girl growing up, but I happened to be the oldest, and we were talking about where does that fall in line. So if I could ask you guys, for me being the oldest, I was definitely more of the social one. The more confident, not competitive, and a little more fell on the artistic side. Sway's the baby of the bunch, so Sway got a whole bunch of issues, and then there's the middle child syndrome. So I was wondering if you guys could share a little bit, like who's the social butterfly, who's the laid back one, who's the more competitive, just in terms of growing up with three people, three siblings.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I think from a competitive standpoint, we are all competitive. I think we all individually, and we saw it at an early age too. I think we all knew that we were going to be our own harshest critic, our own, best teacher, best. We were going to have that voice in our head, so to speak. And so I think we kind of used that to our advantage, and we had a lot of time at home just because. Our parents were very, very private. Just wanted to be very, very careful about our friends and the families and the kids that we were hanging out with. But and because of that, I think, and being the oldest, I was definitely a little bit more introverted. I tried to, I tried to basically get all A's coming out and making sure that it was just, for me, it was something that had to be done. Like it wasn't any question. And my parents were definitely strict and tough on me with the grades and stuff like that. So it was like that probably all through high school, and obviously as I got closer to college, it was a little bit more difficult to contain me because I'm out on my own at that point. But I would say, I'm probably the more quiet one. I was definitely focused on school early on, and as I got older, I started to branch out and be a little bit more social because the world kind of came to me. They almost had free reign, so to speak, since now I was out in the world and going to college and meeting new people. So that's kind of where I stood from. I don't know. Go ahead, Marcus. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm definitely the most social. Like Jeff said, we're all competitive, so I wouldn't even try to say I'm the most competitive. But I'm definitely the most social. I got a chance to kind of, be second and watch Jeff grow up and kind of, see what I can get away with. And so I definitely got away with murder, to say the least. But no, even just playing basketball, Jeff is 2 years older than me, and so I always got to see, the articles are going to be written, how the games are going to look, how people are going to try to attack you on the court. And so for me, I had the privilege of watching it, so I, got a chance to kind of develop my skills knowing what was coming, and Jeff kind of was thrown into the fire, so to speak. But, I'm definitely the most social. I'm not willing to, I'm not afraid to fail. I think I learned that from my dad. If you were to ask him, I think he would definitely say we all have pieces of him within ourselves, but, he often jokes that I'm the most like him, and he, would try to catch me up in doing things because he said, you can't get away with it. I've done it already, trying to do things that I did when I was their age, So I would just say that, and I think, definitely that I'm definitely the most social, for sure.
Okay.
Jazz.
I think I'm the baby, obviously, and during the time I was the
Stand
only
up.
girl. So
Youngest stand up.
I know. Yes, but I was a combo. I'm definitely an introvert, but a social butterfly at the same time. I just watched my brothers and how they moved, and they were the ones to take the steps before me. And once it came to my time, I either followed in their footsteps or I veered and made my own path. But I think I'm definitely just the young one of the group that I should think twice before I take that jump. Marcus is going to take that jump, and Jeff's going to think about it. I'm just like, okay, I'll think and then I'll jump. So, I'm definitely a mixture of them both, and in my own right, a balance to the three of us. But, being the youngest and the only girl at the time, I'm the dean's favorite, whether they want to accept it or not.
Don't let Jazz fool you. She was running the house by the time she got to high school. So she was running
Oh, my
things.
gosh. Thank you for sharing all of this, guys. This is Tracy. I'm wondering, when you are king of such greatness, from what we've seen is a lot of times a child may either want to very much follow in the footsteps of the father or mother and almost like mirror their path. We see that a lot in Hollywood and entertainment, or someone wants to go completely left and feel like they have an identity that's solely their own. I'm wondering, what was the case when you guys were growing up? Was there ever a time where maybe you felt like, dang, I really want to kill it in sports and have a powerful career in that arena? Or was it more like, I just want to figure out what I'm into?
That's a good question. You want to go ahead, Jeff? I'll say, I would say that, I think early on for me, basketball was was definitely a goal. Like it was if I could play this professionally, I want to go ahead and do it. But my dad and our parents actually did a great job of just making sure that what they would always say is just make sure you love the game first. Whatever it is you want to do, make sure you love it. They never pushed us in any direction. They just kind of had a hands-off approach, and what we decided to do early on, as long as we were getting our schoolwork done and we were, doing well, they were on board. But as Jazz said earlier, I think it was more about the commitment. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it, and that actually helped for us to definitely me coming through and being first in the fire, so to speak, helped me to understand. Okay, what am I? What do I really want to do, or come to that understanding that I need to start thinking about other things I may want to do, because, only 60 players go to the NBA every year, 60 people out of the whole world. So, right. I think that was a crucial piece or crucial learning that I would say our parents made sure we were aware of early on, that sports is you got to be very lucky to play professional sports and always have an eye or be thinking about other things. So once I got to college, I kind of knew. I kind of started that search or that journey for what was next in my life, even though I was still playing ball. But yeah, I think we had that foundation. I was lucky to have that foundation. That when the time came, I was aware of. Of being able to go out and search for something else to do. So,
Gotcha.
We have the Jordan kids here, Jasmine, Jeffrey, and Marcus, and we're talking about The Last Dance, but I found it's just so interesting. I just, if you can, tell your dad thank you for sharing. A lot of folks were inspired, and then also they didn't shy away from the controversy in this. I saw President Barack Obama commenting on a quote that your dad supposedly said. I never saw the quote about Republicans buy sneakers too. That upset a lot of people in the community. They talked about, when the media lashed out on him and created this gambling problem that they claimed he had, and him, even sitting down with Ahmad Rashad and explaining to folks, nah, man, I don't have a problem gambling. I'm just competitive. If I got any problem, it's competitive. And then learning that, people could put you on a pedestal to break you down. Now, you guys are celebrities in your own right. Heather, Tracy, and I, we're in the public eye, too. Heather's the first African-American reality TV star from the real world.
You know what, Sway?
I'm just saying.
Hashtag
I remember that conversation.
Okay. So how hard is it for you to witness that part of The Last Dance, to see when people were attacking your dad? And then was that in the house too? Did that leak over to the house when these times were happening? Jeff, you're the oldest, you probably remember the most, but was that leaking over in the home life as well?
No, actually. I think it was, for the most part, we felt like when Dad got home or Mom was home, when our parents were home, it was normal for the most part, and as normal as it could possibly be. Obviously, we were very blessed to live in a nice home and have nice things. But outside of basketball and what he did for a living, when he got home, he was Dad. So it wasn't too bad. I did see, obviously you see it in the paper. Kids at school want to talk about it. They may have some other opinions from their parents that they got, but it stayed outside of the house for the most part, from what I remember. Marcus may have some different memories. We were in the house at different times, but for the most part, it felt normal to me.
What was it like, Marcus?
I mean, it was pretty normal. Obviously we was hanging around my dad a lot as we got older, so whether it was playing cards or Barkley coming to the house or Pip or any of the celebrities. I remember vividly when Jay-Z and Beyonce came to the house for the first time. I actually I got this picture with Beyonce that I put in my binder that I took to school when I was in like 5th grade. I thought you couldn't tell me shit. I swear to God.
That's mad funny.
But you know, things like that, you know, you obviously just look back on it and cherish. But at the same time, you know, we had moments with him where he was a regular dad. You know, I remember, you know, tugging on his coattails to try to go to the movies every now and then. And you know, we all knew that there were times where he couldn't, but he would, you know, sometimes just bite the bullet for us and go to a movie where, you know, we're sitting in the back and we got to creep in maybe 5 minutes after the movie starts so nobody really knows. But, you know, once we leave, we're getting mobbed. Or I remember one time we go to the White Sox game and Jasmine was real little. And, you know, you got to walk down the ramps at the stadium, and literally security is just creating like a wall for us because there's so many people trying to mob my dad. And Jasmine can speak to it, too. I know she remembers, like, I remember her bawling because it was just such a frightening experience of not really knowing why, but people really trying to clamor and get to your dad. You know, as a kid, you don't really understand it. But as we got older, my dad did a great job of making sure, like, that we were involved with him and going to his camps and stuff and, you know, playing pickup with him at the house. You know, we would have Derrick Rose and Jamal Crawford and these NBA guys come in to play pickup at the crib. And so, you know, those type of experiences, you know, we're just thankful for like my dad inviting us in on them. And it really kind of shaped who we are as adults, you know.
Jasmine, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's echoing. Our parents did a great job to make sure we were as normal as possible. Like Mark said, I remember that game, and it was terrifying. And me being the youngest at the time, I just never understood why everybody was just so obsessed with our lives and our dad. It never made sense. And I literally just Googled him one day when I was in my like preteens and just was like, oh, now I get it. But I think you're not just doing a typical 9 to 5. You're not making regular business trips. Like, you're becoming a phenomenon. You're becoming an icon and a legend. And at the time, I didn't really get it. So I had to do, you know, that extra research or ask those additional questions and just try to figure that out as to why everybody was so interested in our lives. And, you know, definitely made me feel like we missed out on a couple things. But looking back at it, you know, our father and our mom made sure that it was as normal as possible, and they were involved and super caring and super protective, and I wouldn't change it any other way, no matter what. Whether fame or not, people following us or being obsessed, like, it is what it is, and they did a fantastic job at making sure we still had a humble and incredible childhood.
Who is your mom? Like, I feel like on Juanita, I feel like your mom need a docuseries.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
My mom, so she's so private, man. I don't know if she would ever do that, but somebody should tell the story for her, definitely.
Because think about it. Like, we all adults now. Jasmine, you about to get married soon? What's your Jasmine? Then that cut her out.
Say that again?
You're engaged to be married, or are you married?
I am. I'm engaged to be married, and hopefully, you know, COVID lets me get married this fall. But I am engaged and looking forward to it.
Okay, congratulations. Now, can you imagine being, like, let's just step outside of the circle, that's your dad, but the woman that has to be be by the man's side who's Michael Jordan with multiple kids, and that, you know, it's not just him who's famous, it's everybody in the household who's famous, and everybody got to take on the pressures of that. And even when maybe he's not at his strongest, the mother got to be a solid rock. What was her regiment like? What was it like growing up with your mother, the wife of Michael Jordan?
Yeah, so my mom, you know, she's from the south side of Chicago, so I mean that's more than enough.
Never mind.
Yeah, exactly. She's tough, you know, and exactly. And so when we were growing up, you know, my mom made it a point that, you know, we would go to the south side, visit my cousins, her sisters. We would do most of our, you know, Thanksgivings and spend holidays over there, and so she kept us real grounded. And, you know, obviously it's a unique position to be in, obviously, even just not just for my dad, but for my mom. And I just, you know, thank her for raising us as somewhat normal as possible, because, you know, I say that not jokingly because we didn't fly commercial until like I was a junior in high school. We were flying private, and so that's not normal. But at the same time, we were going to a public middle school, and we were doing, you know, Sylvan Learning Center and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Just to make sure that we were getting the education that we needed. And so she kept us real grounded, and I really think it's a testament to, you know, her upbringing and being from the south side of Chicago as well.
Man, we got the Jordan kids with us. Marcus, Jasmine, and Jeffrey are online with us.
Yeah.
We're talking about The Last Dance, man. I just want to know, were y'all ever mad because you thought, knowing how much money your dad made and how much money your parents had, that they were being stingy? You know what I mean? Like growing up, like how come I don't like? Is that
Right.
was it ever that moment?
Probably more so that we older, not that we got bills and stuff like this, probably. But no, growing up, like it was. I think luckily I had these two, so it wasn't too much that we couldn't do together, and make the best of our time together. So, I think that covered up a lot of thoughts about money for us. The fact that we had the opportunity to spend a lot of time together as a family, and obviously we saw, we had friends, and we knew kind of where we stood as we came of age in terms of financially and how big our house was and blah 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 blah. So more than anything, just grateful and thankful for everything that came our way, and that goes back to my mom as well. I mean, I don't know how she did it. She kept us grounded and made sure that we were aware of the blessings that we had. So
That's dope.
Yeah, I think it's more so about like having an education around wealth, and I think that's something that's really important to my parents. And even right now, as we get older, obviously the elephant in the room is that somebody's got to steer this past my dad's lifetime, right? And right now we're in the process of it's actually called family dynamics, and learning about how we interact with each other, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, how that relates to how my dad operates and what he's built, the enterprise that he's built. And so it's like a 10-year course. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but the process has begun in terms of like what are our interests, with what my dad has, the privilege of affording us. Where do we see ourselves landing in that, if at all? And so it's a great education course that we've kind of started, and I'm excited to kind of see where it all goes.
Y'all can sit on the phone a few more minutes with us.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, Jasmine, Jeffrey, and Marcus, the Jordan kids are here. I'm gonna open up the phone lines too. 888-742-3345. Man, I just got a ton of questions. I want to make sure Tracy and Heather get into. So, Tracy, you got something you want to contribute?
Yes. I'm wondering now, have you thought about, do you guys all have kids of your own by chance?
I do. I'm the only one. My son just turned 1 this past week.
Oh, congratulations. Oh, that's
Super
dope.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah. So even for the fellas, if you don't have kids, just going off of the thought of how do I continue the legacy of my father now and passing it down to potential children, have you guys thought about how that conversation goes with just the future generations? Because it's not just going to stop with you guys,
Yeah, a lot of that is exactly what, as Marcus alluded to, is what we're trying to do now. How do we structure this? And I actually got married a year ago, so kids could
Congrats.
Be in the future for me as well. So it's very much in the front of our mind in terms of making sure that we learn and take the lessons that our parents gave us and around the legacy, but also as individuals, as people, and how do we structure that for the next generation, for for my nephew, for possibly our kids down the road, and even our extended family on both sides. So.
Yeah, I think for me it's definitely going to happen organically. I don't want to force my son into understanding the life that, my father has created, the legacy he's created, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely going to be something where it's the elephant in the room. We're going to have those conversations. He's going to learn about his grandfather with his grandfather and with myself and my fiance, but I want to make sure that he decides, if he wants to play basketball or if he wants to, carry on the legacy and go to UNC and things of those natures, because we got to make those decisions as well. We didn't have to play basketball. We decided to. We didn't have to go to UNC. We all went to different universities, so on and so forth. So it's the thing that we can't avoid. Like, it's gonna come up. He's gonna want to know, well, why does everybody love Grandpa just as much as we wanted to know why everybody loved our dad? So for me, it's just making sure that, my son understands it organically, and when he wants to ask those questions, we have those answers, but it's not forced upon him where he can't escape it and it becomes a burden. It's definitely going to be something I want him to embrace and love and appreciate, and he'll do that on his own term and his own right.
His father is a basketball player, Jasmine?
Yeah, my fiance plays basketball overseas professionally.
Yo, y'all just trying to keep the tall gene in the family. You see what they doing?
Without a doubt. No, for sure. I mean, I 10, I'm getting 1. My baby's going to be 7 feet at this point.
Oh, damn, that's great.
That's dope.
I want to talk about Space Jam because, two, LeBron James is casted in that upcoming project, and he's been getting a lot of mixed reaction from fans about the Space Jam series continuing. What are y'all thoughts on it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead. I was just going to say, yeah, I think it would be great. It would be a great experience for the kids, obviously, just with the success of Space Jam 1. It took a while for me to just kind of look back and be like, oh, okay, that's that was pretty dope, and to see that it's still doing well is amazing. So I'm looking forward to it. But I think definitely that foundation was laid with Space Jam 1, and I can't believe how long it's endured in terms of its popularity.
You two echo that sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see it. I think, obviously, Space Jam 1 has got a special place in my heart. I think it's one of the greatest movies of all time. And so I'm interested to see what Space Jam 2 looks like.
Me too, man. I love LeBron James, and I think even Kobe Bryant, one of the episodes was dedicated to the life of Kobe Bryant as well, of The Last Dance. And I think your father, and there were people before him, obviously Dr. J and others, Magic Johnson, that helped probably give your father guidance on how to deal with being the number one player in the league, which isn't easy to do. And especially when you're a son of the number one player in the NBA or a child of the number one player in the NBA. And I'm thinking about LeBron son, Jr., Bronny Jr., and he be getting a lot of attention. His games be airing on ESPN, and he's coming up player as well, but he's living in the shadow of the GOAT, a GOAT, you know what I mean? And you guys, as kids, had to do the same thing. What advice would you give Bronny about his, if you could, what's some of the things you could probably make him aware of?
Yeah, I think
for me, I would just say keep his head down. Just love the game and just keep his head down. Obviously, there's way more media today than when we were playing. I think Jeff and I, when we had to endure people talking shit or trash talking, it was strictly on the court. It wasn't social media. There was no Twitter around. And so now with him, I think that there's an unfair advantage, I guess, or a disadvantage to having to being in the public space at so young and having everybody, have a criticism about your game or whatever. And so for me, I would just, recommend keep your head down and just do you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to add on to that. The social media is definitely a kicker, pros and cons that come with it. But, yeah, I would say, I would say definitely, first and foremost, don't read the comments because that's going to, if that's something that affects you mentally, you don't want to buy into that. But, yeah, I think just, as Marcus said, just, stay in the right frame of mind and make sure that you're protecting, you're protecting yourself, your thoughts, and who you are first and foremost, as you move forward.
Okay. Man, we got people on the lines. I want to take a few calls if y'all don't mind. And make sure you watch The Last Dance. This the final what this Sunday, right? On ESPN?
No, it's got one more week. This week is 7 and 8.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
They've been doing 2 at a
You'll
time.
see a little bit of me at 8.
Okay. All right, cool, man. I got the whole thing in advance, so I just kind of tripped up.
You know
you
Jazz,
know,
you
Jazz.
always showing off, yo.
Come on, man. I'm a Jordan, too. They just didn't know it. Mike in Texas, what up, man? Good morning.
What
How
up,
you doing?
Mike?
Hey, Mike.
Mike, you there?
Bye, Mike.
Good morning, Sway. How y'all doing this morning?
Doing
Hi.
well. Go ahead. Let's say hello to Jasmine, Jeffrey, and Marcus.
How y'all doing,
What's up,
Jasmine, Jeffrey, and Marcus? My question
What's
was,
up, Mike? What's up, Mike?
what's going on? How was it growing up? Distinguishing, who were your friends and who was just, there for you, trying to get certain, perks that it comes from being Jordan's child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, that's something that you kind of even have to balance to this day. It's something that we just kind of operate under the assumption that people are going to come around that, have ill intentions or are looking for trade-offs or something in exchange for your friendship, and so it's I guess it's one of the downfalls, I guess, is growing up as a son of a celebrity, but it's something that, we've learned to endure over the years, and obviously we each have our own individual ways of kind of filtering through the bullshit, so to say. But I keep my circle tight, and I mean Jeff and Jazz, they can speak to what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of practice, and a lot of people watching. But over time, you start to notice red flags and trust your intuition on that stuff.
Absolutely. It's all about your gut instinct. That's what I'll tell
All
you
right,
for
thank-
sure.
All right,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
guys.
All right, we're going to go to Colorado. JP, what up?
JP, what's
What up?
popping?
What up? This question is for Marcus and Jeff. Now that you guys are older, I remember as you were growing up, you guys probably played your dad in basketball. Do you feel at this time you could beat your dad in the game of 21?
Yeah, most definitely, man. Right now, yeah. Right now, we can talk freely now. I know he hasn't touched the ball in like 2-3 years, so we should be good.
Okay.
I think I got him too. Right now, he didn't build a court in the new house, so he was trying to avoid all that.
What you gonna do to defend the fadeaway jumper? 'Cause I know you still got it.
Aim for the knees.
I got a quick
Aim for the knees.
I got a quick story. So when we were playing in Santa Barbara in that notorious game where O.J. Mayo was guarding him and he was talking stuff, I actually I was on O.J.'s team for one of those games. And so I was telling O.J., when he shoots the fadeaway, you got to go into that leg. You got to knock him off balance with his lead leg. And so I'll never forget, I was telling him that one time I was in help side. And my dad, if he could have cut through me with a look, I swear to God, he would have cut through me with that look. He's like, hey, boy, be quiet over there.
Wow, we got Jasmine,
Jazz. That's dope.
Marcus, and Jeffrey Jordan here. Yeah, that is dope. The kids of Michael Jordan. Mike became real meme famous in recent years, man. And this, I don't know if he knew what a meme was when he first became this crying meme. But how did he respond to that initially when that crying meme became as huge as it became? And how did y'all respond to it?
She probably ignored it, to be honest. He was probably trying to ignore it for so long. But it just survived and just kept going probably longer than anybody expected. So we talked about this like before. I've never used it personally in terms of like sending it out or posting it. Maybe in jest between the three of us, we'll send it to each other. But yeah, I think it's just I think it's one of those things that the internet is exposing or showing about the world, about ourselves, and obviously if it's all fun and good jest, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But some of the stuff I've seen out there, not necessarily specific to Jordan or us, has just been brutal. You see people, you see a lot of leaks, you see a lot of just information that normally or probably years ago wouldn't have been out there. It's out there now, so just try to keep my mind protected from it. I usually don't respond to those type of comments or memes,
Right.
but I thought it was hilarious when it first came out. To be honest with you.
Okay, cool. So you didn't get in trouble if you laughed at it, basically.
Well, I wouldn't laugh about it in front of him. So, but no, it's all good.
One of the things I liked about the Last Dance, too, and if you haven't watched it, citizens, get a chance to watch it. Well, it's just an excellent piece, docu-series. is the people always wondered about your dad's relationship with Kobe Bryant and the late great Kobe Bryant, rest in power. And to see the interaction that they had, and even have the testimonial that Kobe gave about Mike and how Michael Jordan was, open to giving him any information he could about his turnaround jumper, telling him, hit me up if you need anything, seeing the banter about Kobe at the All-Star game and how all the veterans were really had their eye on Kobe. I don't know if y'all got to experience their relationship or hear the conversations. What can you tell us? What did you know about the relationship between your dad and Kobe?
Yeah, I definitely remember times where, and I'm sure Marcus and Jazz probably can too, when Kobe would just call out the blue, and my dad would pick up the phone, laugh, be like, "It's Kobe," and answer, and you really heard that connection, shine through the phone. I think, when I saw that excitement every time Kobe called, it was just, it was authentic, it was real and genuine, and he wanted to be the best friend he possibly could, because they were obviously in similar circumstances when you're at the top and you got a target on your back like that. I think a lot of the conversations were around the similarities in their careers and who they are as people.
It was great to see him speak at the Kobe service at the Staples Center. Were y'all there, or did y'all watch it? Jasmine, did y'all watch it, or were y'all actually there?
No, we watched from home. Yeah, we wanted to maybe I can take it in that way.
Okay. Did your dad feel like in a one-on-one he could beat Kobe?
Oh, yeah, sure.
One-on-one, he can beat anybody.
And vice versa, too, I'm sure. Vice versa, too, I'm sure. And the competitiveness in both of them is just striking.
Yeah. I want to invite y'all to come up to the studio when this quarantine is over. I love to sit down and just have more conversation with you. If y'all up to that, come to
that would be dope. That would be
dope.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely,
Jeff. I'll bring the drinks.
Bring the drinks. You got me, Heather. I already know.
Okay. And then Marcus, you bring the sneakers.
I got you. We've got a new Jordan shoe with trophy room coming soon. So I'll make sure when we get them in, I'll bring them back. Sure.
Okay, hey, don't dope. Play, man. Because we were at the the 30th? Was it the 30th
we were
anniversary?
At so what happened? Now that what I remember after speaking, so the Jordan, when we met y'all initially, we were at an NBA All-Star weekend and in New Orleans, and that's when Drake performed. So we were there, and then a couple years later, Sway, or maybe the following year, it was the Brand Jordan Party 30 in New York, and it was downtown in Manhattan. Yeah, and we just had a ball there as well. So that's what it was. It was two different cities, but when you on the source, it all just sounded. It was like one big party one night.
It did kind of blur. And I moderated a panel discussion.
In New York.
Russell Westbrook was on stage. I feel like Chris Paul, and we did this panel discussion. And that's when Team Jordan. I might have to talk to you, Jasmine. I don't know who I got to talk to, but that's when Team Jordan used to hire me to come do these panel discussions. And then I don't know what happened. It all of a sudden stopped.
Oh no!
Who I got to
look into that? Jeff and I will look into that for sure.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it, man. They might have lost my number. I don't know.
It's been quarantine. So
is that what it is? But in closing, what's the future of the Jordan brand?
Yeah, I think hopefully another 30 plus successful years in the industry, and then for us it's definitely continuing our legacy. We're creating different vehicles to do some charity work, also some investments and stuff like that. So we're just getting started, but I think the brand is going to continue as well, and leave its mark in the new generation, the new kids that are up and coming.
Okay,
Yeah, I
man.
think there's a huge opportunity for speaking for Jordan Brand would be the growth of the women's business, and obviously, Jasmine, you got a big hand in developing that. And so I don't know if you want to speak to what Jordan Women's is doing lately.
Yeah, no, it's just the time is now. We're excited about everything that we're doing. I feel like the force of female is really starting to catch on, and everybody's starting to realize that women have the secret sauce in making businesses flourish.
Yes.
And our Jordan Women's apparel and footwear is really coming out hot, coming in fast, and we look forward to everything that's coming down the pipeline. And it's really only the beginning. And as the three of us continue to build our individual portfolios and our own legacies, it's only going to further the Jordan legacy that is standing today. So I'm looking forward, and I'm hoping everybody else is looking forward to just seeing how we will continue to grow individually and as the Jordan family.
Absolutely, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to sit and talk with you guys like this. It's our first time, but I hope it's not our last time doing it. And then, Jeffrey, are you calling me from your personal number, or is that a different number?
Yeah, this is my personal number.
Okay, I'm gonna send you a text. Okay, tell your dad thank you. Through ups and downs, trials and tribulations, that man has remained an inspiration, at least of mine. And I know millions across the globe, and he taught us. He made us all believe we can fly. You know what I mean? And in many different ways. And so tell him thank you. I don't know if he remember ever approaching Heather, Kelly, and me at the table, but if you talk to him, tell him that really stuck to me, and that's one of the best moments I've had in my journey. And so,
Will do.
Okay, man, make sure y'all watch The Last Dance. Give him a big round of applause for me, Adam. Give it up
Appreciate y'all,
for
man.
Jeffrey.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Jasmine.
This
Give it
was
up
fire.
for Marcus. This was such a fun conversation, and I still got about 40 questions for y'all, but I'm gonna let it slide. All right, so make sure.
Sway,
Okay.
next
Thanks for
time,
having
next
us.
time.
Okay. Well, okay. The Last Dance is available on ESPN, 10-part miniseries. If you haven't watched it, make sure you do. Okay, Jordan family, thank you for calling in. We appreciate you. Okay.
Appreciate you. Stay safe.
Love
Appreciate it,
you.
Sway.
All right.
Y'all
Thank
take
you,
it easy.
man. Peace,
you too.
peace,
Y'all too.
man. That was great right there, Heather B.
Gang, boy.